San Marino hasn't always looked like it does today with its renowned gardens and bustling streets. In fact, over 200 years ago, the small city of San Marino had yet to exist. It all began with the Native Americans. The first inhabitants of our San Marino areas were the Native Americans, who lived in tule huts. The weather was warm and sunny, so they hardly wore any clothes. They made baskets to gather seeds, but did not have any pottery or tools. Replicas of their houses can be seen at the Arboretum. Housekeeping was simple. When the huts got too dirty to live in, they were burned down. Many Native Americans lived here because there were lots of acorns, rabbits, and grasshoppers, which is what they ate. They used grindstones to grind acorns into meal, which they cooked in watertight baskets by dropping hot rocks into the meal and water mix. These stones were found at the Patton Ranch, and you can see them now at the old mill. After the Spanish discovered California, the Church of Spain sent Friar Serra with some missionaries to claim the land and to teach and Christianize the Native Americans. They established the Mission San Gabriel here in 1771, over 200 years ago. The Native Americans were moved onto the mission, which became their home, church, school, training center, and factory. Most of the Native Americans lived in the mission dormitories, but some ran off into the mountains and desert, wanting to go on living the way they always had. This is the mission that you know of today. There is very little left besides the church. All the land was to be kept for the Native Americans to have after they were trained to farm, wear clothes, and quit eating grasshoppers. In the meantime, the area was divided into these large ranchos, which the mission used. Certain capable Native Americans and soldiers were allowed to use it as well. Cattle were raised on the ranchos, but not for their meat. Their hides were made into leather, and their fat into soap and candles. Most of the meat was thrown away and burned. Native Americans, who had grown up eating seeds and acorns, were not used to eating meat. This is the old mill in San Marino as it looked back then. It was built to replace Native Americans' grinding stones. The mill was built here because there was spring water here, which was dammed up and used to power a water wheel, which in turn powered the grinder. This is what it looks like today. These are grindstones that once ground the corn and wheat at the mill. At first, the Native Americans did not like the new kind of bread and mush, but they soon got used to it. This is what the mill looks like back then. The lake, which is Lacey Park today, can be seen below it. Water was stored in stone cisterns that you see behind the mill, and it ran into the lake after it had turned the water wheel. The wheel in turn powered machinery on the ground floor, which turned the grindstones in the upper grinding room. This cart is called a carreta, and was the only kind of transportation here between the mission, the mill, and the grain fields. Water stopped flowing out of the spring after the city of San Marino was established. As a result, they started pumping water up into reservoirs. For a long time, there were only the Spanish, Mexicans, and Native Americans here because Spain would not allow anyone else. But before long, some sailors traveled here. Some American Yankees wandered in over the mountains, and a few pirates were captured and held here. The pueblo, or town, called the City of Angels, or Pueblo de los Angeles in Spanish, was first started by a group of settlers from the San Gabriel Mission. It was built of sun-dried mud brick called adobe brick. The little plaza church which you see was built by a captured pirate, who was spared his life for his good carpentry skills and for working hard. He also built a new mill near the mission when it was found that the old mill didn't work very well. This drawing was made after Los Angeles had been growing for 66 years. The Little Plaza Church is still there. This is the dam that the captured pirate Chapman built to store water to run the new mill, which no longer exists. This dam is on La Presa Drive, just north of Huntington Drive. Some of the Yankees who came to the area made of Native American women and received a portion of land, such as Hugo Reed did. This is the Hugo Reed House on the Santa Anita Ranch, which can be seen at the Arboretum. The house is made of mud brick, so it was called adobe. It was by a lake that's still there. There weren't any nails at first, so the roof rafters were notched and tied together with cowhide strips, and those were covered with poles, to lay reeds, and then covered with dirt and tar from tar pits, or springs of oil and tar. This is the lake that was on the Santa Anita Ranch near the Reed Adobe. This is the Michael White Adobe on our high school grounds. Michael, also known as Miguel Blanco, was a sailor that came ashore and married a Spanish girl. He got a grant of land, which is now San Marino. Where the swimming pool used to be is where the springs of water, a marsh and running stream were. Michael planted fruit orchards and grape vineyards and raised 13 children. This is what it looked like before the high school was built. Benjamin Wilson was an American who came across the mountains and deserts to California, trapping and trading along the way. He settled in this area and came to be known as the father of San Marino. He may look very dressed up in this portrait, but when he first came here, he wore buckskins and a coonskin cap. He escaped death 3 times, once from a bear, once from a shot by a poison arrow, and another during the Mexican-American War. Wilson's house was on what is now Euston Road, at the end of Kensington. The Mexican government had overthrown the Spanish and had taken all the mission lands. Then the United States took over the Mexican government here, and the settlers began to come in. Wilson later bought the San Pascualito Ranch, which took in all of Alhambra and half of the San Pascual Ranch, and so owned the land from here to the mountains, one of which bears his name today. This slide shows the wine grapes he grew in his vineyard. This is the trail up Mount Wilson, which was originally built by Wilson to carry timber down from the mountains. The owner of a large ranch was called a ranchero. Wilson and Reed were rancheros. Wilson was also given the Spanish name of Don Benito when he first arrived here. Life on the ranchos was lively with fiestas, fandangos, and bear and bull fights. Here they are roping a bear that is going to be put into a pen to fight a bull. The old mill changed hands many times. One owner, a southern gentleman, Colonel Kewen, established it as a southern mansion to live in. It was later deserted, and rumors say it was haunted by wild animals and ghosts. One of Wilson's daughters married James de Barth Shorb, a man from Maryland, and they were given a piece of Wilson's ranch. They named it San Marino Ranch. Today it is known as the Huntington's Estate. The Shorbs had a large family, and here we can see some of them on their porch. This is the Shorb home, which was where the Huntington Art Gallery is now. Mr. Shorb named the ranch San Marino, after his grandfather's plantation in Maryland, which was named after the Republic of San Marino in Italy. Old pictures show extensive orchard and grain fields surrounding a lovely wooded area of oaks with many streams and lakes. This lake is where the Japanese garden now is on the Huntington grounds. After some years, a plant disease killed off the vineyards, and then many new settlers coming into the area started planting oranges instead. Wilson subdivided his huge ranch and sold small ranches to the new settlers. Oranges were wrapped in tissue papers and packed in boxes right in the orchards. Railroads had been built over the mountains now, and the oranges were shipped east. The first town around here was San Gabriel, which grew up around the mission. Everyone here had a San Gabriel address and went down to this combination store and post office once a week for groceries and to pick up mail. The children living around here went to this San Gabriel school, which is where the Washington School is today. General Stoneman and his wife Mrs. Stoneman bought 400 acres from Wilson and called their ranch Los Robles. Stoneman was the governor of California from 1883 to 1887. Another one of Wilson's daughters married Mr. Patton, a man from Virginia, and they were given a part of Lake Vineyard Ranch, where they built the Patton home. It is still standing in San Marino on Patton Way. Their son was the famous General George Patton. He fought during World War II. When he was a boy, he fished and rowed boats on the lake by the old mill, and was interested in bullfighting using his grandfather Benjamin Wilson's cows. This is the Patton's library. The Wilsons helped establish the Church of Our Savior on Roses Road in 1865. It was the first Protestant church in the area. At the Church of Our Savior are some colorful windows in memory of the Wilsons and the Pattons. On this one, in memory of Ruth Wilson Patton, shows her with some Native American women and her daughter Anne. On the left is her father Benjamin Wilson, dressed as he was when he first arrived here. On the right is her son, George Patton Jr., in Army uniform. George Patton Sr. is shown in this glass window, made to honor all that he has done. In 1892, Henry Huntington of the Southern Pacific Railroad bought the Shorb Ranch, leaving its name San Marino Ranch. He developed electric city rail lines in Southern California. He wanted to put an end to the slow horse-drawn carriages and trucks, which many were satisfied with. Huntington built a railroad line from Los Angeles right through his ranch and far out into the country. A private railroad track curved right up to his door. The trains had big, fast red cars that people rode in. The tracks went down what is now Huntington Drive. However, back then, Huntington Drive was not yet a drive, but a road with tracks, as automobiles were scarce. Huntington tore down the old Shorb home and built a large mansion, which is where the art gallery is today. Early tractors, or road graders, were horse-drawn. As time went by, more tourists and newcomers flocked to California and were driven to the Mission and around the orange groves in the new horseless carriages, or automobiles, by real estate agents who were trying to sell land. Oranges were hauled to the new packing houses in trucks or horseless wagons. There were so many oranges being picked that farmers had to share packing houses in order to speed packing and shipping. These packing houses had some simple machinery that helped wash and sort oranges and move them into boxes for packaging. There was an orange marmalade factory here called the San Marino Preserving Kitchen. As more and more people came and Los Angeles grew into a large city, Huntington's San Marino Ranch and Patton's Lake Vineyard Ranch were cut into small lots. This slide shows Huntington's San Marino Ranch being divided. Huntington planted beautiful street trees and wanted lovely streets with nice homes. This is Patton's Lake Vineyard Ranch before it was cut up with streets. Virginia Road is shown on the left side. Later on, Mr. Huntington and Mr. Patton decided to turn their area into a city to be named San Marino after Huntington's ranch. The seal of the Republic of San Marino, a small country in the center of Italy, was picked as a seal for the city. After some changes to the seal in 1913, our city of San Marino was born. The seal of the Republic of San Marino has a crown which was left off, and the foliage of oak and laurel was changed to orange and palm foliage. San Marino was to be a city of homes only, and because no industry was allowed, the San Marino Preserving Kitchen moved to South Pasadena. The orange groves were gradually crowded out, and the packing houses went too. Today, the city has expanded and now supports many local businesses, many of which can be seen lined up on Huntington Drive. And so concludes the beginning of the city of San Marino.